Today is Wednesday, May the 14th. We're here at the Aquatic Center in person and virtually. My name is Jeanette DeCastro. I'm the chair of the District Advisory Committee. And you can get your agenda. Thank you. So I've called us to order. Thank you. And our action item, item number 2 on our agenda is approval of the DAC meeting summary from March. That was in our packet. Move to approve the DAC meeting summary from March. Okay, we have a motion to approve. Second. Second. Any objections? No. Okay. So we have approved the meeting summary from March. That takes us to item 3 today, which is our district monthly report. So I'll hand it off to Director Sally.
Thank you, Chair DeCastro. All right, good evening, everyone. Tonight I want to start with a staff update that's in your agenda packet, but it's so important to NCPRD in our community that it's worth highlighting. Aquatic Park Supervisor Joey Amsbury completed the American Red Cross Lifeguard Instructor Training Academy in San Francisco recently. He is now one of the very few trainers in the state of Oregon. Last check, there were less than 12 individuals in the state of Oregon with this certification. This certification allows Joey to teach individuals to become lifeguard instructors. So I just want to, if you'll join me in applauding Joey for his achievement and his service to our community. Joey and the rest of the Aquatic Park team provide health and wellness for our community, but also life-saving skill development from swim lessons for kids to National Guard water rescue training. So this is a really impressive facility with an impressive team. At the Concord property construction is nearing completion and is on track for a fall grand opening celebration. The naming process for the new park and community center is also well underway. It does not include the library. I just want to add. A naming committee with local residents, stakeholders, and staff will meet in June to review submissions and develop a recommendation that will be considered by the board later this summer. As you saw by email a few weeks ago, those of you that are on the DAC, NCPRD has partnered with the Clackamas County Development Agency on the purchase and phase 1 park development of an approximately 9-acre parcel at 70th and Monroe. This area was identified as park deficient in the system plan and is in sub-area 4. The County Development Agency will invest $4.8 million between the acquisition and park development. And as promised to the NCPRD community, NCPRD will use funds for property acquisition from the sale of the Wichita and Clackamas properties. I want to note that these are restricted funds for property acquisition, so we can't use these funds for operations. This transaction was brought to us by a private developer and leverages a large multifamily development that will create new housing opportunities nearby and will generate significant development charges and new tax revenue for the county and NCPRD. Improvements to this neighborhood will start this summer with construction of pedestrian and bicycle improvements on 70th near Monroe. Those are funded by the County Development Agency. So this will be a really impressive, well-designed, well-developed node within the community that's adjacent to a Title I elementary school.
Can I just ask you to clarify, because I looked at the packages when that came around. NCPRD is buying the property and the development agency is doing the development of the park? Is that how
they are funding it? They are funding it. So they will actually pay for conceptual design and then phase 1 construction of the park. So they're a partner in it. I want to thank Erin Riom for leading this really complex and transformational transaction. It is between a developer, the development agency, and NCPRD, so it's highly complex. And I also want to thank our generous partners at the Clackamas County Development Agency. So thank you, Erin. Many of you already know this, but again, it is worth repeating that Metro is bringing their Community Choice Grant Program to Clackamas County. The Community Choice Grant Program was recently successful in launching multiple parks and nature projects in Washington County. This is an opportunity for community members to share their project ideas directly with a key grant funder in our region. Project ideas can range from small improvements in existing parks to the design of new parks, which we need, both of which we need. NCPRD staff are working closely with Metro staff on opportunities for projects emerging through the system plan process. Metro, as many of you know, has been a generous NCPRD park supporter, most recently at the Concord property with the new playground improvements. The first community meeting for this grant program is May 17th from 1 to 4 p.m. at the Gladstone Library. There are more community meetings, so please check for that email or check the Metro website for more information. And Joel, I don't mean to steal your thunder, but this Friday,
Yes,
the
please.
Milwaukee Community Center is celebrating 45 years. Joel will tell you more. But I do want to just thank the Milwaukee Community Center Advisory Board for organizing the party, which will be held from 2 to 4. Is that correct?
2 to 5, yes.
2 to 5, thank you. Anything more you want to add on that, Joel?
I hope everyone comes. It's gonna be a great celebration to showcase of 45 years, but also of everything that the Milwaukee Community Center provides our district. Programming, rental opportunities, I'm leaving out a ton of things, but more importantly, cake and ice cream. And some amazing raffle prizes that cost nothing. Show up, do a little scavenger hunt, and yeah, celebrate our awesome community center with us.
Thank you. On May 15th, NCPRD will reinstall the dock at Milwaukee Bay Park. We've been receiving a lot of inquiries about this. The dock is removed each winter to prevent debris buildup and damage the dock. And then it's reinstalled every spring. So that will soon be installed for everyone's enjoyment. On May 31st, NCPRD Natural Resources Coordinator Lauren Carey will lead a cleanup of the Boardman Wetlands Nature Park. I want to thank Lauren for being a champion of our natural areas. This is just one of many things she does throughout the year. So please join her if you can. Next Monday, May 19th, a new Clackamas County Commissioner for the position 4 seat will be selected. They will also serve as an NCPRD Board of Director. 5 finalists have been selected for consideration. I understand that the board will make a decision by 2 p.m. on May 19th, something about that time. So that's very exciting. To close tonight, I'd like to highlight NCPRD's spring basketball clinics for kids, which are seeing great participation. A total of 104 young athletes are taking part this season, including our first ever girls basketball clinic, which welcomed 25 players. So we think this clinic represents a meaningful step towards creating more gender inclusive athletic opportunities in our community. A parent recently reached out to Josh, one of our sports supervisors here at NCPRD, and shared the following kudos. Hi, Josh. My daughter participates in the Thursday 3 to 5 grade clinic at Mount Scott Elementary, and she's having a blast. The coaches running the clinic are fantastic. They do such a great job teaching skills, but also empowering the girls throughout practice. They have really made this a wonderful experience. Thank you. This concludes my director's report. So thank you. Any questions?
I don't see any hands up for questions. Thank you so much for the report. That takes us to our item 4, which is public comment. So I will call for statements from community members. And this is in regards to items relating to NCPRD. We're asking that comments be respectful and courteous to all. The time limit is 3 minutes. And we'll go to in-person comment first and then online comment if there is any. And I'd like to first call Wilda Parks. Would you like to come to the table, please? Yes, please.
My name is Wilda Parks and I reside in the city of Milwaukee within the boundaries of NCPRD. And I'm speaking to you today on behalf of the Milwaukee Community Center Advisory Board, where I currently serve as chair. I realize you haven't had a chance yet to have your discussion about the budget, but I believe you've all had it for a few days now, and hopefully you'll be able to relate to some of the things that I want to point out to you. So I appreciate that you let us speak a little earlier in this meeting, so thank you very much. We definitely appreciate the opportunity to chime in on the budget for 2025-26 as it relates to the Milwaukee Community Center. The advisory board members do understand the financial restraints and therefore the need to reduce expenditures. Regarding the future of the district and its finances, we encourage beginning a sincere discussion regarding funding in the future and perhaps a local option levy to augment current income. Tonight's discussion is about more immediate decisions and the opportunity to continue to serve our most needful and vulnerable residents. While we would appreciate the center continuing to be open to the public 5 days a week, we understand the financial decision to close 1 day a week. We know there are cuts throughout the entire district budget. We're here today to ask that one item gets a second look and a cushion for this coming year. The older adult transportation system is vital to the well-being of our district residents. Hundreds of individual trips are logged monthly, and most of those people are amongst the most vulnerable. They eat a meal while they're here, while they're at the center. This may be their only time of social interaction with others, especially with their peers. Many attend classes that are offered at the center. Some come just to be around other people. The advisory board and I ask that the DAC join us in the reconsideration of eliminating this vital service from the budget, and instead give it a year to find new sponsors and or new administration. Let me tell you a little bit more about what that service is all about. In the past year, more than 5,500 trips were taken with about 312 individuals. The majority of those were from their homes to and from the community center, but mostly to eat, congregate at lunch, and attend classes and events, and even to volunteer. Eliminating the program will isolate many district residents. There could be many results of that isolation, including food insecurity, wellness, loneliness, depression, and others. The advisory board members and members of the Community Centers Foundation understand the funding from NCPRD to be about $50,000 annually. We ask that this be provided in the 25-26 budget while our boards and the DAC explore sustained funding. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
And I hope to say this correctly, Stan.
Catherine.
Catherine, thank you. Come up and join us, thank you.
My name is Stan Catherine. I am the Executive Director of the Milwaukee Community Center Foundation, and I come to you on that, in that capacity to also share with you and ask for your assistance. An email, a letter from me should have been forwarded to each of you. I hope that you got an opportunity to look at it. It's pretty important, along with what Wilda has shared with you. I'd like to expound and maybe expand a little bit. I understand the need to do what to make the cuts. But I want to go to the idea that you'll see that in one of the points in the budget is that the Milwaukee Community Center Foundation has agreed to double their support of Meals on Wheels. We agreed to do that way back in February. In the agreement or the understanding, or should I say, that there was an explicit decision to do that to keep the Milwaukee Community Center, its staff, and its programs whole. We did that, and we're told, and actually received thank you notes from employees and from people knowing that we had done that for that very purpose. And so I know that there was a budget proposal presented after that reduced the amount of money that was taken from strategic reserves. But I also understand that there was a request to come back and say, no, we need to eliminate all of that. And in doing so, after the commitment had been made, it created the appearance of bad faith negotiations. It made it seem as if this is why we were agreed to do this for this next fiscal year, to keep this whole. And now all of a sudden, we're not keeping it whole. Public and private partnerships need to succeed with transparency. It's a tough thing for us to look at it. By no means are we trying to say that we don't want to support Meals on Wheels any longer. But our whole purpose, our whole mission is to support the programs and services at the Milwaukee Community Center. That's what we're there for. And we want to see if there's some creative way for us to find a way to do that. One of those things is if you go and look at the website, and I'm sure that somebody might have some different information, but it appears to me that all public facing services in Clackamas County stay open 5 days a week. It's the business offices that work 4 days a week. We are a public facing service that should not be cut to 4 days a week. It doesn't make any sense. You'll see in my letter, there's also some comparisons. If you cut the transportation program, and if you cut that extra day, you'll see that those other numbers that where they were talking about an increase for congregate meal, well, I can tell you that the congregate meal will not increase during that time. It won't happen. Because most of those people that come to the congregate meal, which we get a substantial reimbursement for, plus they make their own donation, it won't happen because many of those people ride the transportation, the buses there. I'm not gonna try and sit and read the whole letter to you because you have it in your hands. And I feel like I've spelled it out pretty well.
And we're coming upon time. I'll ask you to.
So
finish your
all I'm
thought.
asking is that you support a limited use of the strategic reserves, and so that we can maintain services while we look for other ways, creative ways to fund those services. Oppose the reduction of the center operations to that extra day of the week. Expand the transportation or maintain the transportation program for the next 9 to 12 months so that we can again find other ways to finance and fund this. And to you might need to go back and reevaluate those other parts of the budget that have to do with the meals when you reduce those other things if you're going to do that. And I just want to thank you for your service, your voice on behalf of the public. The foundation stands ready to continue fundraising, partnering, and advocating, and we urge you to do anything in your power to ensure this budget does not turn away those who rely on us most. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Are there any additional comments, comment cards in the room for public comment? Seeing none, do we have any folks online, Jessica?
We do currently have, we have two now. Okay, sorry, one. One deciding. The first one would be Riley Clark Long.
Thank you for being here, Riley. Go ahead.
Okay, am I audible for folks? Wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me this evening, everybody. I'll be short and sweet because I'll be repeating a couple of the same themes. My name is Riley Clark Long. I've lived in Milwaukee since 2020. In my professional life, I've worked in the parks and recreation industry for over 6 years, though never for NCPRD. But as a private citizen in the district, I've served on the Milwaukee Community Center Advisory Board. And that's the capacity that I'm here with you tonight. And I'll share that me and my immediate community here in Llewellyn, the Llewellyn neighborhood of Milwaukee, have been incredibly disheartened by recent news of cuts specifically to the transportation program that brings access to Milwaukee Community Center to hundreds of our elders in this community. And along with proposed cuts to the hours of the facility, I fear these rapid changes might reverse what has been some incredible momentum from the center, which has made major strides in serving our community's most vulnerable at what is already an incredibly lean budget. The transportation program threatened by cuts has a gap that the county does not want to fill, which is not a huge gap. So what kind of message are we sending constituents? That the county is not willing, even temporarily, to consider a program that has been incredibly impactful for hundreds of the county's most vulnerable residents. I won't repeat a lot of what Stan and Wilda has said, but they've given you an idea of how important the transportation can be to access to these programs. Do we not care enough about seniors accessing critical programs and quality of life services to find $50,000 or so somewhere, or a solution to bridge the gap temporarily as a long-term solution is identified? Totally understand the realistic need to shore up finances. But I actually believe the center stretches a dollar farther than most recreation facilities in our region already, before cuts, which is why the cuts feel even more kind of shocking and almost punitive. What's more, I really do feel confident that community members would rally around something like a local option levy, like it's been successful in our neighboring Portland, if we're courageous enough to bring something like that forward to the ballot. I believe it's realistic and reasonable to hold off on cutting the vital transportation services, either by temporarily extending funding using reserves or some other sort of gradual adjustment. But I want our voters to see us make that effort if we go to them with a levy. They want to see us use a more measured approach that could preserve harm from the most vulnerable residents while still demonstrating fiscal responsibility. I absolutely understand that we have a fiscal responsibility to the county, but we also have a responsibility to consider who will be the most effective by what appear to me as a citizen of the district as avoidable cuts to the center that will disproportionately harm seniors. That's all I have for you this evening. Thanks for having me.
We have Angela, right?
Thank you. Go ahead, Angela. If you're speaking, you're still on mute, Angela. You should be able to hear. There we are. Thank you. If you're speaking, Angela, we're not hearing you in the room. You're also welcome to put comments in the chat. If any of that is a technological challenge, Jessica can also give you our email address to submit written comments as well. Give it a couple more moments here to see if we can work out the technology. Right now, I'm showing that you're not muted, but we can't hear you in the room. Any? Okay. Okay. So our speaker was Angela Wright, also from the
Milwaukee Community Center Foundation.
Thank you.
Chair.
Okay. So I would really like to hear your comments. Can you please email those to us in written form? Um, For that reason, I'll go ahead and close the public comment period. Thank you so much for all of the comments tonight. We will move into our discussion agenda. And I'm sorry that we're a little behind on time. I will hand off our next item, A, draft system plan update. Anna Laybourne is here and on Zoom to provide an update. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'll share my screen here for our presentation. Okay. Are you seeing a slide now?
Yes, and now we're seeing the correct slides instead of your presenter's notes.
Excellent. Love that. All right. Well, first of all, just wanted to make sure you understand this will be a brief introduction tonight to the system plan draft that will be coming your way soon. So we are tonight just providing this as a brief overview. Your input will be requested for the draft plan review rather than in this meeting tonight. The plan creation process has included 5 previous presentations to the DAC. So tonight we're only going to focus on the final stages of the plan development. So currently we're in a stage of working with NCPRD staff in review of the draft plan for their input and refinement. The DAC and public review will begin in the middle of June. So you'll see a draft plan at that point. And so it'll be the public and DAC at the same time providing review of the draft plan and providing comments throughout. So I'm going to provide a quick overview of what to expect in each chapter of the 5 chapters of the plan. There will also be an appendix to refer to for more technical information and documentation of the plan creation process. Summary of the plan and key findings are the first chapter of the executive summary, as you can imagine. So creating this chapter it's a standalone for review if the public doesn't have the time to review the entire plan. On this slide, we're showing the outline of the executive summary contents on the left, and on the right, a sample page from that chapter. Chapter 1 builds awareness about the district, how the plan should be used, and what services and public spaces the district provides. Chapter 2 contains the details of how NCPRD system has been evaluated, including all the maps, charts, findings that we've been sharing in the previous meetings with you all that really inform the plan and set the stage for the plan vision and action items. Chapter 3 provides information about the public engagement to date and summarizes the findings about community needs and desires that were expressed throughout that process. And Chapter 4 provides the plan for the future, and it's really the heart of the plan. It's organized around 4 plan themes that we shared with you previously, each with goals and detailed strategies described within this chapter. Last, Chapter 5 is the implementation plan. It includes prioritization of key initiatives, a list of action items to ensure fulfillment of the plan goals. Our consultants team's recommendations for funding tools and partnerships are identified for support in this chapter. This chapter is really the piece that staff and the district, the DAC, will be using to help ensure the plan gets implemented. So with that, I'll talk about the next steps for review. So I mentioned mid-June is when the DAC and public will review the plan. And we're going to encourage you to please help share it and spread the word about the draft plan for public review. 2 of the DAC members, Danielle and Sheila, have already volunteered to support the tabling efforts that will be used to advertise the draft plan availability and request review from the public and their comments. During the September DAC meeting, NCPRD staff will request DAC to recommend the plan final plan approval to the board. And then in late September, NCPRD staff will request the final plan be approved by the board. So when the draft plan is sent to you in mid-June, NCPRD staff will also be providing a template form for you to fill in and supply your comments with specific and substantive edit requests. As you can imagine, NCPRD staff does not have the capacity to incorporate handwritten notes and will need you to provide comments in this way to make the plan edit process efficient. The public will be shared a short survey online for them to complete in response to their thoughts about the draft plan. So with that, thank you for listening in about our update about the draft plan creation. That's all.
Thank you. We have a question in the room from Mark.
I think I'll stay up. So I have a question,
Anna.
so the systems plan is in another term, master plan, right? I'll use that term for now. And it is often used in conjunction with the district going out for bonds, either general obligation bonds. I'm not gonna get it right at all, Paul, but we know what I mean. So, it is often a requirement of going for those bonds to have an in-place act, approved and sleepy looking master plan, right? So my question is, I think that the work that you guys have done is fantastic. I'm looking forward to seeing the final document. Is what we are preparing meeting the requirements of what would be expected if we were to pursue a bond?
I'm not, what I'm familiar with from the state requirements for a master plan or a system plan is that it is used for then approving if you're going after state funds for grants. I'm not aware, and maybe someone can correct me here, of it being required to have a recently adopted master plan for that purpose. Most states, that's a nice thing to have, and it's certainly very useful for the public to be aware of what those plans are encapsulating. But we're meeting the state requirements for the submission of a master plan, but not for the purposes necessarily related to the bond component, if that makes sense. Our funding source requirement would be for more about state grants.
Sorry, I spoke over you, my apologies. I guess what I'm not saying is the bond measure to the constituents in the district. When you go for funding with a entity, government or otherwise, that is when you're gonna need that document, as I understand. So does this meet the requirements of those entities who would be funding a bond?
The entities that would be funding their bond, we may need to get some kind of understanding from a legal and funding sides about. Yeah, that's a little different than what our requirements are from. I don't know what those are from that bond statement. I've not heard of that before. In other states where we have for parks and recreation plans had bond items identified within Washington State and others. It wasn't contingent on the master plan. It was contingent upon, typically what happens is you're pulling out specific items that you might be asking for a bond, but if it is for an overall increase to the district funding from a tax, like a property tax, then that is handled in a different matter. So this might be more complex, that we need to do a little due diligence about what those requirements are from the this particular type of funding source. But I have not really seen that tied to the actual plan document. I've only really seen that for going after state grants.
I apologize, it didn't occur to me when we started this whole process 18 months ago or whenever it was. But I do know that that was one of the purposes of going through this exercise, was to meet the requirements when we go for bond funding.
So, do you want me to jump in? I'll just say, so I concur with Anna. I do not believe that we have specific requirements to meet for a capital bond measure. But we will look into that, Mark, and we'll get back to you.
And I would say that one thing that this plan is doing that's critically important is laying all of the foundation that we need in that long-term vision, not only to be eligible for a lot of the grants that we pursue on a regular basis, but also to help inform a capital improvement plan that gets into a lot more detail. And that tends to be what's needed to identify specific projects for a bond measure, whether that's specifically required or not, I'm not sure, and we can look into that. But this effort is teeing up that capital improvement plan that identifies the specific projects that get funded through a bond.
Got it. So I won't belabor this, but in my work for Alaska Natives, work through funding through SDA requires a tremendous amount of paperwork. And so as much as we can get out of this plan to, complete that, that would be great.
Thank you for the tough question, Mark. That was a good one. And Anna, thank you for the overall summary, and I'm really looking forward to the document. And to clarify the survey, or there'll be a public survey to give
Yeah.
comments on the plan? Yes.
Yep, it'll be a little more
Great.
like an online form to understand how they feel about it, if it's thumbs up or if there's some comments of things they'd like to address. It's just a way for us to collect comments about the draft plan.
Okay, so we'll add that to our to-dos to boost that with our communities.
Please.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
I think that brings us to our next item, which is the proposed budget briefing, and Kia, Sally, and Callie Gunther will be our presenters.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Callie Gantner, Finance Supervisor for NCPRD, and this is Kia Sally, of course, Director for NCPRD. This evening, we'd like to present to you an update on our development of the fiscal year 2025-2026 requested budget. You'll notice that we are still maintaining a high-level overview of the requested budget to comply with Oregon budget law. In the interest of time, we ask that you hold your questions until the end. Okay, so to kick things off, we'd like to share with the public budget calendar. And back in November, we had the Budget 101 overview and priorities discussion with all of you and the budget committee members. Back in February, we're back with both groups to give a high-level requested budget preview. And that brings us tonight when we are back to give an update on the proposed budget strategy we are moving forward within the FY 2025-2026. The budget is posted online on the NCPRD's website and the county's website. And as per budget law, since a few of you in this room are budget committee members who will consider approval of the budget, we are not at liberty to discuss specific details of the budget tonight. Please be aware that the budget committee cannot deliberate on the budget before the public hearing on May 27th at 10:45 a.m. at the Public Services Building on the Clackamas County Red Soils campus. In June, the NCPRD Board of Directors will adopt the budget. So throughout the last year, we have received a number of requests through the budget proposal form, 13 of them to be exact. Thank you to all who have participated. This is a brief summary of the requests received, and rather than read them all, I will highlight a couple that are mentioned in the FY 25-26 proposed budget. For Milwaukee Bay Park Phase 3, SDC resources have been set aside should this project move forward. For the Justice Property Park design, resources have been identified. Proposals not moving forward are always kept on the list and will be reviewed in the next budget cycle. Also, the system plan that will be completed later this summer will identify project priorities and sequencing. At the November DAC meeting, we met with all of you to hear your thoughts on the budget priorities for the district. Ideas that came from that discussion were complete the system plan, which was a general consensus among the DAC, develop properties in underserved areas, and make the park of the Justice property a higher priority. SDC methodology update after the system plan. And it was okay to hold off on the Trails Network plan if funding wasn't available. In general, some DAC members question whether NCPRD should be in the business of older adult services. The general consensus is that there is a need for these services, but who is best to provide them? There was a request to review the current funding to see if there are alternatives or options for outside entities to assist with some of the services. One comment was a preference not to subsidize travel trips and bus services. Services most critical to the district are adaptive and inclusive sports and swim lessons for kids.
As I shared in February, NCPRD does not receive any county general fund. NCPRD tax revenues are the largest source of our general fund revenue and the primary source for operations funding since they are unrestricted funds. These tax revenues have not kept pace with inflation. Our permanent tax rate of 54 cents per thousand on that far left of assessed value has not increased since the 1990s. This chart shows how NCPRD's tax rate measures up against other park districts in Oregon. It's the lowest park district tax rate in the state. In addition to using these tax resources for operations, these funds are sometimes used to help fund capital projects because the planned $50 million capital bond measure has never been presented to voters to fund new parks and facilities, and because system development charge funds are also limited. An SDC methodology update will be undertaken later this calendar year after the system plan is completed and will in part include consideration of a rate increase. Because of the lack of general fund revenues, NCPRD has in several previous years used funds from the district savings called beginning fund balance. This is not a sustainable practice, as the forecast shows that in approximately 6 years, there will not be sufficient resources to fund operations at current levels. For fiscal year 25-26, we are now proposing to eliminate all use of beginning fund balance, which requires staffing and program reductions. Last fall, I anticipated reducing our use of these savings by half. This spring, I received direction from the district administrator to eliminate all use of beginning fund balance. NCPRD has been implementing operational efficiencies for many years, so reducing the budget without service or program impacts is no longer possible. The budget reduction considerations on the left were presented to you back in February, and the list on the right are new budget reduction considerations. Kelly, I don't know if you can make that just a little bigger. It's a little hard to view. That's possible. I'll keep going. All NCPRD programs and services are important to our community. To allocate our limited resources, NCPRD focused on programs that best support our mission, enriching community vitality and promoting healthy living through parks and recreation. NCPRD is working with community partners to identify potential strategies for restoring some services and programs in the future. There are still challenges ahead for the district in future budget cycles unless we're able to generate more general fund revenue. There's an opportunity to remedy this issue by increasing our tax revenues, which I hope to talk with you more about in the months to come. As was mentioned earlier, the fiscal year 25-26 budget hearing for NCPRD is scheduled for Tuesday, May 27th at 10:45 at the Public Services Building on the Clackamas County Red Soils campus. And the budget document is also posted online on NCPRD's website and the county's website. I will also add that public testimony will be received at the budget hearing on the 27th. This concludes our presentation. We're happy to take any questions. We would go back to the last slide. That might be helpful for everyone.
Thank you, Claudia. Mary?
I don't know that it's a question, but I do have some observations and a recommendation, I guess. I spent a lot of time digging into this, so bear with me, this is gonna take a little bit of time, but, in 1965, Congress passed something called the Older Americans Act, and in the wake of that, over the next 20 years, there was funding to build senior centers. And so Milwaukee Senior Center was built in 1980, that was probably getting some of that funding. I think if you look at other senior centers in the area, they all seem to date from that 70s and 80s era. And then in 1990, Milwaukee and the county commissioners at the time created what we now call NCPRD. And I have the original of that 1990 IGA here. If anybody wants it, I'm happy to send an electric copy too. And that document says pretty simply that NCPRD would be taking over the Milwaukee Center and would provide, and the document provides that programs will continue to be primarily geared toward the needs and interests of older residents of the North Clackamas area. Now, I don't know anybody who was here in 1990 and part of these negotiations, so this is purely speculative on my part, but it does seem to me that the county commissioners of that time might have seen these community centers going, or these senior centers, as we used to call them, going up in different communities and realized they had a big swath of unincorporated area to serve. And there wasn't a city that was going to serve this huge area. And that might have been one of their motivations for the actual creation of NCPRD. Again, I don't know that's the case, but it seems to me entirely possible. Jumping forward to this last few months, I spent a lot of time today listening to the video, watching the videos of our prior meetings. And I have 2 pages of transcription. I'm not going to read all of it. I do take some issue with the characterization staff gave of the comments made. I think they took a couple of individual DAC members' comments and characterized them as some kind of consensus. I don't think we reached consensus around all those things. But I do, it was highlighted for us that senior services, of the subsidies that go out to the general fund, senior services get 28%. Recreation gets 28%, sports get 28%, and 16% goes to the aquatic park. There were some questions, and Kia answered that it wasn't typical to fund senior centers through parks, and to quote, but to be fair on the topic, we will prepare a briefing for you. There will be a lot of thoughtful, and this a couple of minutes later after some other questions. There will be a lot of thoughtfulness put into this approach. The optimal approach will be to find partners and partnerships so that services continue. Maybe there's a different way to do things that reduces the amount of NCPRD subsidy. I want to be really clear that tonight I'm not suggesting that we are cutting older adult services. It's just that in a landscape of limited resources, what are your priorities to maintain? So I appreciate you sharing this feedback with me. And a little later, Director Savas said, can the county do more in response to questions some of us were asking? Can the county do more financially for senior services? I do support getting answers to all those questions and having a more clear understanding. Then in February, there was an announcement of the donation, the $188,000 donation that's up there, which would close the funding gap for older adult nutrition services, enabling NCPRD to provide meals for older adults without any reduction in service. We were told there would be the elimination of a director level position and a hiring freeze for full-time positions. In response to more questions about, aren't there social service agencies that should be assisting with the the older adult services, Kia responded, we do believe that we have requested the maximum funding available. That doesn't mean we can't continue that conversation with Health and Human Services. Andy Ho and I were just talking about how it would be really useful to do a deep dive on this particular topic because it is so unusual in terms of NCPRD's role. So we hope to queue that up late spring or early summer. So I think out of all of that, we knew there was a problem with the way we fund senior services. But we also were expecting more of a dialogue and not to just be slapped with cuts. I will say that, in my experience in government, both local government and federal government, government sometimes realize something is not sustainable and they have to do something to change it. But typically what happens is some kind of task force or special committee gets created to figure out how to, and brings all the people to the table to figure out how to fix it, not just unilaterally, cut the budget. I do say to those, to the 80% of people served by NCPRD and by the Milwaukee Community Center, the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners is your city council. You're an unincorporated, you don't have a city council, they're as close as you get to a city council. They are the people who should be concerned about services being cut for you. And I'm certainly concerned for Milwaukee residents and for everyone. But I mean, I think it's on the county commissioners to have a conversation with the community about this and to create some kind of mechanism to figure out how we get out of this hole. And maybe it is ultimately that it's not under NCPRD. But all we're doing is cutting money and not moving toward that answer. And I really think the county, personally, the county commissioners should, the funding should go forth at the levels that were discussed earlier. And we should spend the next 6 to 8 months trying to figure out a solution for the long term.
Thank you. Is there anyone, any hands online? Okay, so next in the queue is me and then Grover and then Mark. So my question, can we go back to the slide briefly that has the timeline for the budget? Yeah, thank you. I'd like to confirm that I have the correct understanding and then ask a timeline question. So my understanding is that the district is stopping the practice of using the beginning fund balance because that's like paying our bills with our savings account. If you take that to a personal finance level, we're chewing away at our savings because we're paying for day-to-day expenses. When was the direction? When was the information about we can't use any beginning fund balance at all? April.
So as I mentioned in my remarks just a few minutes ago, last fall, I spoke with all of you about reducing our beginning fund balance by about half. And in the list, I won't make Kelly toggle to another slide, but we have a 2-part list. And on that left side, I talked with you about those cuts as part of that kind of that split of reducing our beginning fund balance use by half. As we move through the process, please know that we put together our budget submitted in February, and that is our requested budget. To become our proposed budget, it needs to be approved by the district administrator. And so in early April, we went through a review of our budget, our requested budget before it became proposed, and we were asked to eliminate all use of beginning fund balance. That's when we made the round 2 cuts. So that's when we had to bring more cuts to the table. And I won't go into, I want to just stick with your question, which is, that's the timeline. I won't go into kind of which programs were cut, why they were cut, but that is the timeline. So, and then our budget became our proposed budget. once it's in that process, we are not at liberty to talk about it. And also, I did have some opportunities to try to reduce impacts on some of the different programs and services and some of the staff cuts. Because we were able to reduce some of our contracts with our vendors. I mean, we really tightened the screws in every way that we could. And also asked our partners to, beyond the Milwaukee Community Center Foundation, ask other partners to step up with additional resources, which they did. But we still had a gap. So that's the.
Thank you. Calling on Grover for your question.
Sure. I'd like to address, first of all, thank you for your very well researched piece. I appreciate that, and it brought forth the stuff that we need to talk about. The piece that I heard here, though, is that this using your carry forward balance. I in the 10 years I've been involved in Clackamas County, I'm not used to that. I mean, you don't start a year with this humongous balance as a way of doing business. So but it's still money, whether it got used or was sitting in a transfer fund or whatever. I don't quite see where that comes in, but what I am very clear about is that our job, I'm a resident, I'm a taxpayer, and that's what's a requirement of being a resident of NCPRD to be here on the DAC, and our purpose, as per our bylaws and as we were mandated, is our job is to provide recommendations to identify priorities about capital projects, programs, maintenance, and operations to advise the board of directors. And without the information, we can't do that. And it's been my challenge in all the time I've been participating in this process. Will remember way back when, in this very room, but the point of it is, we still, in my opinion, are not able to do our job as the board as the district advisory committee to advise the board of directors because we don't have enough information. I don't know about what the cuts are as far as how much is spent on maintenance. Is there data being gathered that actually speaks to this is where it is now and we tried this and it reduced it by X amount? That data is all lumped in big numbers and it's a challenge to be able to move forward with that. So I agree with what I heard Mayor Beatty speak to, is that it isn't just a decision that gets made and now we have to live with it. It needs to be looked at, and I appreciate the presenters that came and spoke to it as well. So that's all I wanted to say. It doesn't work for me to have it come out as here's what we've decided. We're cut out of the process. We are to be included in being able to make recommendations to the board of directors, and I don't feel we get that option. So thank you.
So I'm seeing a direct response from Director Sally.
Oh, I just wanted to help everyone understand that while we can't go into the numbers tonight because we do actually have 2 budget committee members in the room, so we can't go into details about budget numbers. You can go online and take a look at the budget document. I have one here tonight, so you can take a look at mine after the meeting. And we actually go into a lot of detail about each of our lines of business. So if, you know, for example, if you're interested in programs and community centers under recreation, we have performance measures and significant changes detailed, our goals, and then we actually have line item detail by cost centers, and we even get into specifics like how much we have allocated for office supplies, travel, lodging, airfare, for professional development, allocated costs. We actually break it out by technology services for the county, since we pay for some services that the county provides to NCPRD. Even though we don't receive any county general fund, again, they provide services to us. So we actually have a lot of detail in here, and each of these lines of business, then we also break it down by actuals for previous fiscal years, as well as the current year budget, fiscal year 24-25, and the proposed, of course, which is 25-26. So I do hope that all of you will go to the budget document because we do have a lot of detail in here. If there's anything that we don't have in here that you would like, Grover, we're always happy to amend this. In fact, Mayor Beatty had the great suggestion to actually have more detail about the Zone 1 System Development Charge Program and to differentiate between the funds that come into City of Milwaukee and the funds that come into the Urban Growth Management area. So we actually accommodated that, and you'll see in the budget book that we made that change. So I just want to really invite feedback. We want this process to be better. We also included some additional meetings with the budget committee in our process so that there could be more education with the budget committee. So they weren't coming to the meeting in May and looking at the budget and hearing about NCPRD all at one time. So again, please share specific feedback with us about how we can improve the process, as well as the product.
We have about 2 more minutes on this topic. More?
I've been more than 2 minutes.
I think it was 2.5.
3. I would say that I'm glad we're having this conversation, and I wonder if we would be having it if this hadn't come up this year, right? I've been involved with the district since 2018 when I started on the task force for the property. And this is the first time I've heard this conversation take place. Thank God it's happening. So I'm happy for that. And so I wanted to just talk first about just my thoughts about the tax rate. I would love to see a graph that shows the increase in the tax rate versus the increase in operational costs over time, to see that gap grow. And what that means to me when I think I'm gonna see that is it didn't go up once and stay level. That graph kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, which meant that I had less money to spend on operations every year. And so I think in previous years, that beginning fund balance or savings account was used to make up the difference. And I'm glad this year, maybe we're finally talking about not doing that anymore. So I'm happy for that. What that means to me personally, my tax bill last year, when I looked at it this evening, my taxes for this district are $225. That's it. And my tax bill was over $8,000 for the entire year. That's less than 3% of the total amount of tax service or tax obligation that I have to the county. So I feel like I never looked at it that way, but I bet each of us looked at our tax bill, we would be surprised how little amount of what we pay in our taxes comes towards this district and how much we actually get out of it compared to what other things we might or might not use from the county. So I guess I would finally say that, sometimes you have to break things in order to make them better, for something better to come out of it. But I would say that none of us put our house on fire to save it. But I would say about the district and our finances, house.
Thank you. I was considering if I should put myself in the queue, but does the fire district have a levy right now? I'm looking at Director Savas in case you might know. Yeah, I concur that the big message is that we need more revenue, and that's hard for some of our neighbors, right? But it's right here in the numbers. And I really would encourage as many of us as possible in this room, on Zoom, your neighbors, your buddies who are in the district, who use the aquatic center, even if they're not in the district, right? Please come if you can on May 27th. Talk about how much the district means to you, and that you do want to see it supported, that you see the value in the services and the parks and recreation. I think that community engagement makes a huge difference. And that's a way that we can help. That's very tangible. Go ahead, Joel.
Absolutely, kind of waiting for the dust to settle a little bit, but that was, I basically wanted to encourage everyone, particularly as a DAC, we're not meeting in May, or in, prior to this, meeting in May, but we're going to alternating months. We need to encourage everyone, to participate in this, May 27th meeting if they want to share their opinion and get their voice heard, because this is our last opportunity to really do so. And Mark, you said it perfectly. It's to the bigger picture as well of the need to increase funding, but certainly partially to the Milwaukee Community Center and some of the cuts to be considered there. It's not necessarily a Band-Aid to consider salvaging some of what's being proposed to be cut, in my opinion. And so I hope people delve into some of the details of this and make their testimony heard if they feel inclined to do so. It's very important.
Thank you for saying that, Joel. I mean, you think of my father-in-law who's a CV, and I know that they're the Navy construction battalion, and they could build bridges quickly and dismantle them quickly if you needed to, and maybe there's a bridge somewhere that someone can imagine that's smarter than me. Correct. Calling on Director Savas.
Yeah, I just want to remind everyone, last year, I think it was July, could be wrong, but when Cindy Becker came here, kind of really did the breakdown and actually cleaned up, I thought, and exposed the budget in a very comprehensive way, better than I've ever seen it, fortunately, and also unfortunately, right, because it brought bad news to bear, if you will. And I know I heard staff and NCPRD staff share the range of being underwater, if you will, how much money we're tapping every year, the loss, and that was between, I think, just going off of memory, 600, 1.1 million or something like that. And we don't know, we don't know exactly what that's going to be year after year, but I will say that the language maybe that Kia shared with the administrator, I'm not sure about exactly about that language. I'm here to dispute it at all. All I'm here to say is that, and we had one of our county budget committee meetings, and Wilda, you used to be on our budget committee. The county, all the county budgets do not operate in the red. They operate in the black, and they are sustainable and they are structurally sound. We were not aware that NCPRD was this far out of whack. We learned that about a year ago, 8, 9, 10 months ago, when Cindy Becker first dropped that on us. So unfortunately, here we are. I also understand, and I know that Kia, I mean, I know it's not easy, but you've made other cuts across the board. So it's not, I just want everyone to know, it's no one place, population, group has been singled out for cuts. It's across the board. It's painful. But I will also say that in the climate we're in today, government overall, statewide, locally, regionally, you can watch the news or you can open up the newspaper and you can see every government around us is struggling. I don't know of one that is not underwater, frankly. Washington County, Portland, Multnomah County, a number of agencies, school districts are making cuts, everyone's struggling. And yeah, we all have to figure out a way, I think in a way, how we move through that. So overall, I'm speaking at a really high level. Overall, the pain and strain is very suffering. I got approached this afternoon for a nutrition request of $180,000 for a population that we all care about, unrelated to this. And our budget forecast said that the county, and by the way, there's the county NCPRD. This is NCPRD, but our county budget forecast that we sat when we had the budget committee meeting a couple months ago was that we did a 30-year forecast, 5-year, you know, it's graduated. And it gets fuzzier as you get out in years, but we realized in order to make the payments for the courthouse that we had to do a 30-year budget. We are going to hire an auditor, I hope, that'll be one of our missions, to make sure that the forecast is accurate every year and it's audited to make sure that it's real, because we cannot afford to make a misstep. If we do, and so example, it is so tight that $100,000 annual expense, just one $100,000 item expense will take us into the black, into the red, before we get the courthouse off. So just, that's how much, we are on the precipice of going in the red, the county. Okay, but across the board, the policy has been, as long as I've been a commissioner, that no operations we have shall run in the red. So had we known this 5 or 10 years ago, whatever that, I don't know what that was, we didn't go back into the history when we went from the black to the red. But that is a standing policy, and frankly, I think it's irresponsible to run in the red. So those are just high level observations, but I just want to say, if anything else, emphasize that not any one single thing was, as we believe Kia, didn't target anyone, and the board has not, I'm going to be here to support Kia's decisions and staff's decisions. We have not been part of that, but I just want to give the support, knowing that we have to be in the black. And I think Kia, I mean, I know it's tough, but I thank you for being responsible. At the same token is, yeah, it's gonna be a conversation. There'll be a lot of conversations because we have a lot of people coming to the county, and the county commissioners, whichever hat they're wearing, ask, and we just don't have it. It's the tightest year ever in the history of the county. But be fortunate, we're in a county that's not in the red like other counties nearby.
All right, I'm gonna go very briefly. We, as an advisory committee, can give advice. Grover made that good point. I would recommend looking at the Portland Clean Energy Fund, which to my understanding has more money there than currently they are spending. So we're really looking for sort of the power of the purse, our board of directors, to really be creative and provide support for the district. We know it's not a quick fix, right? Especially if it took a while to get here, but that's what we're really looking for, is find a way to get more revenue for our district. I'll finish there. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair DeCastro. I just wanted to respond to your thoughtful comments, Director Savas and Vice Chair Elliott. I did not detail that list on the right tonight, which are the additional cuts. And that's where, obviously, those are the cuts that many of you have talked about with regard to the Milwaukee Community Center have gotten so deep. But I would be remiss as a leader of NCPRD and caring for my team to not mention that 7 people have lost their jobs. So 7 families and all of the people that they cared for have lost their jobs. And Marty and I have had to deliver those messages last week. We had an all-staff meeting, which was very hard. And not only do NCPRD staff care for all of the people that come to our centers and to our programs and here at the aquatic park, but we also care for each other. So, so thank you for mentioning that there were deep cuts in other areas. We are not just reducing hours at the Milwaukee Community Center. We are limiting public access at the new community center or renovated community center at the Concord property. So that's going to be deeply impactful to the community that had expected to drop in and socialize and create community there. We're also reducing our staffing in social services. That will be impactful. We haven't really talked about that tonight. And we are also reducing our staffing in parks, trails, and natural areas. So there will be some impacts to our turf fields. We'll have different mowing schedules. We may have some closed restrooms. We are actually working through all of those details now. That will be really impactful to people who expect those parks to look a certain way or function a certain way or need to use the restroom quickly. And we are also impacting planning and development, their capacity. And I would say for the team members that remain, we have been as a team stretched thin for a very long time. We're going to be stretched even thinner. And that was one of the reasons why I made the very difficult decision to stop doing more with less. We simply can't do it. I'm not going to be able to keep good team members if we keep asking them to work more hours, to cover more things, and to deliver the same level of service. So this is really that moment where we're turning to the community saying, we've been doing more with less, and now we actually just need to do less. And I really appreciate your comments, Mark, because I find inspiration in the comments that this is the moment. Please help us. And I'm really inspired by the conversation around the table with regard to additional tax resources. So if we can leverage this moment and bring more people into this conversation, then all of the impacts will not be for naught. So thank you so much, but this has been a very, very hard process for NCPRD staff.
Thank you. I'm going to move us to our next topic. Sheila and Daniel, are you ready to present on DAC community engagement?
Yes, I'm going to be starting. And so, hi, hello, everybody. A tough act to follow. I mean, I know this is just really, really hard to be doing all these challenging budget cuts. So I'm going to try to be more inspirational here with what we're talking about, because at the last meeting, the talking about the systems plan, was very, very exciting. And at that point, Daniel, I believe, asked about if there would be a slide deck that we could use in using for community engagement. So Erin then subsequently invited Daniel and I to come and have a conversation with her about, as the DAC, what it is that we would like to see happen. Daniel and I are in sub areas 3 and 4, which are kind of on the perimeter of North Clackamas, but are the outreach that we would like to do, the engagement really would be for the entire North Clackamas parks. And so one of the things that we wanted to do was to help people understand the boundaries and the purpose of what North Clackamas Parks and Recreational District is trying to do, particularly in the areas that don't have CPOs and that aren't as park heavy as others. And then our second goal would be to just expanding the awareness and supporting the efforts of NCPRD, thinking about ways as DAC members how we can do that. And then kind of a stretch goal would be building momentum for a Friends of or park stewardship, that we could maybe get some support for individual parks, not necessarily money raising things, but going to a park and doing some plantings or just taking care of them along those means as a Friends of. And so Daniel, I'll let you take over slide 2.
Yeah, thank you, Sheila, for talking about just getting us started there. I think for this slide, just talking about our strategies and kind of next steps, the most important thing is our upcoming vacancies for DAC positions. So really just spreading the word and engaging with our neighbors on that. And then kind of the next thing we talked about was just developing a calendar. And this is where everyone at this meeting and really comes in, is just racking our brains to come up with any place where we could have a presence. So we've listed some things here, but like school events, farmers markets that we know of, just getting sorry, I'm losing my words here, but going to folks and to our neighbors, as opposed to trying to get them to come to us, tends to be the best strategy. Like we discussed when we were talking with Erin, it's just easier to find folks where they're at. So this is just a short list, but please, if there's anything you can think of, like that's what we're here to. That's kind of our purpose as DAC, right? Community engagement. So if there's anything you can think of, let us know. And our next slide kind of also talks about the same things, but Sheila will get us started.
Okay, so just some of the things that we might want to be talking to the public about and giving them information and receiving information about the budget, which, well, I don't really need to explain to everybody here about the budget, but, to what's the messaging that we need to get out to people about that? And on a more encouraging note, the system plan, have people take a look at that and what is it that they're thinking about that?
And then just getting our fall 2025 highlights on everyone's mind early with the Trails Network plan launching, and then just spreading the word on the Concord opening up.
Okay, and so Daniel and I just appreciate Aaron bringing us in to kind of get some of this information together. And, we're hoping that other members of the DAC will have some ideas about where we can have a presence and move forward from here.
Thank you. Are we ready for if anyone has questions?
I have a suggestion, which is, do you think your number 1 and 2 there are the big things? And I would maybe kind of change the order and talk about system plan first and then lead into talking about budget. Because I think, it creates some excitement about things to come, but then sort of the reality check.
The wet blanket.
Yeah, your point is well taken. This is not a prioritized list, but you're right. It would look much better to have the system plan first and then messaging about the budget.
And I would say, I know you're really trying to get outside of Milwaukee, but the Milwaukee Farmers Market actually gets a lot of people from across the region, not just from the city of Milwaukee. So that's also a place to think of as a place you want to go.
And actually, we aren't trying to get out of the city of Milwaukee because we do realize that, the people don't know what sub area they're in. And I think it's more important for people to understand the boundaries of North Clackamas Parks. One of the things that I was telling Aaron about is that in my area, I just happen to live by this little piece of property that is maintained by Happy Valley Parks. And so in my neighborhood, I think if I asked people, they would not necessarily know where North Clackamas Parks. So just getting that information out to people about the area that we serve, but not differentiating by which sub area people are in.
Thank you. I'll call on myself. I want to say thank you for laying this out as a calendar because having a topic and a timeline to start with is really, really helpful to me. I'm sorry, Joel, if you were.
No, I didn't mean to turn this into a spitballing session either, but I think kind of on the tail of what Mayor Beatty was saying, that like First Friday is another great opportunity. I think it draws people from all over the district in Milwaukee, but a little biased, but I know Rotary clubs are full of people that are very interested in this and have usually networks of people or businesses they can reach out to. Specifically the Rotary Club of Milwaukee, Gladstone Oak Lodge, and at least Clackamas Sunrise typically kind of roam in that area, and they usually have set meetings, so you have a captive audience, and I know can almost guarantee they will all be very welcome. Certainly the Rotary Club of Milwaukee, but great work too. I think that's and to Mayor Beatty's point too. I do think, the lead in. I know it's not prioritized, but starting with the eye candy and then leading into the budget would probably be a good approach to presenting the information as well as far as prioritization.
Great suggestions. And Daniel, I hope you're jotting these down.
Yeah. Daniel.
There will be a recording. Thankfully. Well done. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, so our item 6 tonight is our DAC member reports. We are at 6:56. We have 10 minutes for this item, but I think we can move through it, as we need to. So Mark, can you remind me, was the intention that I would go first? Or are we gonna go around the room first?
Dealer's choice.
Okay.
The boss.
I'll hop in there. It's been a month. The last week has been a year, as they say. We are planning a DAC retreat in July. So look to your email for more information about that as the event gets finalized. And we have a volunteer. Thank you so much, Josh, for serving on the community center, the conference site.
Okay, I thought you meant for the retreat, I'm like, wait, what's that? No,
You have ideas?
No.
Email me. So thank you. That's pretty exciting. I'm trying to be very careful. It's the center at the Concord site, right? And then the DAC nomination review committee, that is worded a little awkwardly, but there will be a meeting on Zoom on June the 4th. In terms of recruitment, so look for follow-up information in your email. Okay,
Can I ask a clarify? So what you mean about recruitment, it's kind of, is it like a presentation to potential candidates, or is it the actual? Is there gonna be action items at that June 4th Zoom meeting for the DAC nominations, or is that just a review, the meeting to discuss it?
so that's the decision-making meeting,
Okay.
right? And we're asking that folks who want to be considered
That's the one.
to fill out the application that's available online,
Okay,
or email us if they need help with the application.
to be decided on June 4th.
June 4th, right?
Okay.
Yep, so save the date. All right, and then I think that can take us to member reports. Would you like to go first, Grover?
Sure, and I'd like to actually, you're mentioning a date in July and you just mentioned one in June, and it's having some advance notice of dates would make a huge difference. Is there a date already discussed for July?
So for the July retreat, that's this, it's going to be our second Wednesday. So it's the same time as our normal meeting, but we'll have an extended time.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying that. That was helpful.
Okay, thank you. So it's 2 weeks, I mean, it's 2 months from now.
Mhm, that's right.
Thank you. And what I'd like to report on is that, as I mentioned in my report last month or 2 months ago, we were going to have and had representatives from all 4 sub areas work on outreach to listen to community members, and we did have an event on April 29th, and we had a number of people from three of the 4 sub areas were represented, and we had a great opportunity for people to talk about the questions they had, and concerns that they had, and that is part of what, from my perspective, we're representing the people in the district, and so having an idea of what they want and what their concerns are is important. So that's what we did. We had a listening session, and we have another one scheduled for August to do that as well. All in the vein of when we look at the number of people who are directly interacting with NCPRD, it's a small portion of the number of people who would have to choose whether they vote to increase their taxes or not. So how do we include more people? And I do want to stick to, when this measure was on the ballot, it made a promise that there would be library boards representing the 5 sub areas, and we don't have that now. And I think it would be only to our benefit, because you look at other places that have higher incomes from their taxes, so people make the choice to go ahead and pay that. So what do we have to do to make sure that people would see us in that light? And having more people engaged is what we're working on, have been working on. It's board approved, it still is board approved, and that's what we're going to continue doing. Thank you.
Go ahead, Lisa.
I just wanted to let people know that Ally couldn't be here because she's at outdoor school this week. And unfortunately, this would have been her last meeting. So I don't know, I may drag her to a future meeting just to say hi, but,
Yeah.
she's taking a new job, this fall as an assistant principal, and she felt like she could not extend her time on the Milwaukee Parks Board. So her term there is coming to an end on July 1. And, we did do interviews, she and I, and then a couple other people did interviews last week for new people for that board, so I will maybe be bringing somebody new to the retreat in July.
Thank you, and thank you to Ally. She did email to let us know she couldn't make it tonight, and really appreciate her work and contributions.
And remind me, Lisa, you don't have to particularly live in Milwaukee to be on that board, right?
Yeah, our boards, most of our boards, except for our budget committee, allow a few members to be from outside Milwaukee. So yeah, she was one of a couple people on our Parks Board. She lived in Milwaukee at one point, but then when she bought a house, it was outside Milwaukee, it was in Oak Grove. So yeah, a lot of our boards have a couple people who are from outside Milwaukee. Some have a actual limit written into the ordinance, and some it's just our practice, but yeah.
Like we're a connected region. Thank you. By Anita.
Well, I'm certainly finding a lot of what we talked about sobering. I'm very sorry to hear about a number of people that had to be let go. That's big. And certainly it impacts to seniors. I want to say that I went on a tour at the Concord site with you and several other people here recently. And that is like seriously wonderful news in the midst of this other situation. The playground is outrageously large and imaginative. And many thanks to, I think, Alex, not only as a planner, but as somebody who's acquired grants from Metro, I think. And you can already, I mean, you can't go there yet, but since we were on the tour, we got to see that the water pump for the water feature with the dams and the artistic, rivulet flow thing is already working. And it's gonna have a spray pad, and it's just gonna be like, well, I'm calling it a miracle, because I live in an unincorporated area that had nothing that served as a heart for the community, just nothing. And now we actually have not only a hub, it has a library and a community center and a park and a playground all in one place. And I think it is a miracle. It's fabulous.
Go ahead, Joel.
I just wanted to, I guess, double down on the Milwaukee Community Center event this Friday. And especially in light of all the sobering news, in fact, when it was discussed in our meeting, I think it felt a little weird, and then it felt perfectly timed as well, because it's celebrating Kia, all of your work, your team's work, certainly Marty and his team's work, and the outstanding job they do at the Milwaukee Community Center. And on top of that, a great way if Ally can make her way over there, because I know there's no school on Friday, which is one of the reasons we planned it for that day. We could celebrate her then if she's able to attend. But and I know Commissioner Salas, I believe, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I think you'll even be there to have some remarks. Maybe you don't know yet. Regardless,
On Friday?
this Friday. Maybe not. I didn't mean.
I didn't know that.
Okay, well, that's what I was, I don't want to throw Marty under the bus, but someone told me that. Regardless, if you can come, wonderful, or any of the board of directors, we obviously, this is why they're helping us. So, I just encourage everyone to show up 2 to 5. It's gonna be a great celebration, and to, as Kia said, doing more with less is, I mean, this is like, it's a perfect testament to seeing how it all unfolds and we all benefit from it. So please attend if you're able to.
Director Salas.
Yeah, so sorry for the sobering news earlier, but it's, I just thought it was relevant to the conversation, but, my question to Anita, is this your last meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so you didn't say anything, so I just want to acknowledge you, and Ally, I know Ally's not here, but I want to just thank you and Ally and everyone else, but I really appreciate all of your work over the years. And I hope you find yourself, we see you in the community somewhere. being part of our community, but I want to just thank you personally for it.
Thank you. Thank you. And if I'm not sitting here, I'll be sitting.
Good.
And just on that note, I would like to say a little bit about, I've been on this DAC since it started. And I'm really glad, I first had a 2-year term. I'm really glad that I filled in for somebody else and have been here since 2020. And one of the highlights is getting to know some of the NCPRD staff who are unbelievably dedicated, some of the nicest people you'd ever want to meet. And also getting to know the other DAC members, such as Ally, who is a radiant sparkle of a person. So it's been fabulous in its own way, and especially the relationship part. And also, I had no clue about the district I lived in. I just had this very provincial sense of the parks in my neighborhood, you know, in my locale. And now I have a sense of the bigger picture. And so now it's like, oh, well, I don't want to just advocate for what happens nearby to where I live, but to really have a sense of the whole thing. And if we could get that across to other residents, you know, to not be just provincial about what's in their immediate area, would be great.
Well said.
Yeah, really was.
Any of our members on the line? Oh, Mark, you want to go next? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So I did want to also say, Anna, to thank you for representing our area. I've always been so admirable of your absolute love and joy of the parks. You know, you're I'm not saying that. But,
yeah.
Reverence.
Well, just your zeal, you know, passion, I think was the word for me. And I know I'm not gonna let you off the hook to like retire or something. So, I'll be seeing you in town.
Oh, yeah.
And so I did want to mention that before our next meeting, that the Oakwood Festival occurs on June 28th. So you guys can write that down. NCPRD will have a presence there in our kids zone, along with the county transportation department's going to have what's called Safe Streets, I think, program where the kids are able to drive their little go-karts around. Be more safe on the streets. And so the county fire department's having their fire truck is there, and fire personnel are there, and kids can try on their clothes. So it'll be very fun, and I'm so happy that NCPRD will continue to have a primary presence at the festival. We had over 5,000 people last year, and I think we'll have that many, if not more. I'm hoping. Car show, all kinds of stuff. So see a lot.
So will it be the parade at the beginning of it, like there was a time before?
No, did we ever parade?
Was it? I thought the cars cruised through.
Oh, well, they do that anyway. Yeah.
I found out one of our members is a classic car enthusiast. I didn't know that. If she would choose to identify herself.
I am.
That's-
I am smart.
And Sue Mitchell.
One of the reasons I moved to Oregon.
Sue, if you want to be in there, it's just, you know, Sue Mitchell. At the,
Thank you. So we have some great events to attend Friday. Oak Grove. Our awesome meetings. Any folks online want to do reports? Are we good? Want to make sure I don't miss you.
I'm good.
And thank you again for your presentation tonight. We'd love to see more of that. That was so awesome. I think we're okay to adjourn.
before we go, I just want to say thank you, Josh, for being here in person. I love seeing you on
Yeah.
there, screen, but also.
Yeah, no, I've been sick the past 2 months, so like I'm finally gonna go to a meeting, I need to go do something.
Well, I'm glad you're doing better. Okay, I'll adjourn us out. Thank you so much.